What's happening, YouTube? It's Simon 466 Cards, and today we're going to talk about Whatnot's decision to restrict the number of people who can watch their videos and view them in their video archive. We're also going to talk about what's driving this decision. There's one very obvious reason that I feel like everybody has talked about, but there's another reason that I don't think I've seen anybody talk about. So we'll discuss that later in the video. But first, let's talk about the change in Whatnot's policy. I have this up on the screen. It's from Neo Cards and Comics, friend of the channel. And basically, there are a lot fewer people who can access Whatnot's video archive today than there would have been a week ago. Right now, the only people who can view the full videos from breaks are buyers who purchase in breaks. Past shows are no longer available to viewers who did not make a purchase, and buyers in non-break categories will only see a snippet related to their purchase. So way fewer people can investigate and dig in and watch old videos of breaks. Now, before we go into the reasons why Whatnot is making this move, let's go through other reasons that are not driving this decision. The first one I want to talk about is what is on your screen. To improve video receipts in order history, past shows are no longer available to viewers who did not make a purchase. Well, this doesn't even make any sense, right? Because if you didn't make a purchase, then there is no order history for you. You're not a customer of Whatnot for that break, so it wouldn't appear in your order history. So that, right off the bat, doesn't make any sense. There's a second theory that this is being driven by data storage, and that costs a lot of money. But the thing is, the video still sits in the data in their storage, wherever they're putting it, in the cloud or whatever, right? Because it's still available to people who purchased the break. It's not like they're deleting the video immediately. They're still having it available for 60 days, I believe it is, right? And so it's not a data storage issue because people in the breaks have access to it. So it still exists. It's just people who are not in the breaks do not have access to it. And so you can't even say that it's for a data storage reason because there is a much smaller group of people who can access it. So that reason goes out the window. And so we've narrowed down two reasons. Let's talk about the very obvious reason why they're doing this. It's to reduce the number of, or the amount of bad publicity that Whatnot can get. This is coming on the heels of the backyard breaks situation, which I will not get into. If you are unfamiliar with this at this point, go to Collect. There's a Ben Burrows article that talks about what happened. But basically, backyard breaks, people did some really, really gross things. And so, well, it's a lot harder to dig up that footage if you can't access that footage, or at least 99% of the hobby can't access that footage because they didn't participate in the break. That reduces the amount of bad publicity for Whatnot, but what that also means is that bad behavior and scams and things of that nature are a lot harder to uncover, right? And so that's not a good look for Whatnot. And I think it's fair to say is not good for the hobby. Now, what I will say, I just want to take a quick aside here. If you go to the Fanatics Live page, this was 3 days ago, which was the same day that Whatnot announced this new policy, they immediately posted that you could replay videos on Fanatics Live whenever you want. So good job by the Fanatics Live marketing and PR team. Well done. So the obvious reason, as I was saying earlier, is to hide bad behavior that's happening on their platforms and to reduce the bad publicity. So that's the very obvious reason, because that would impact their bottom line, and they want to keep that gravy train coming. Everybody's talked about this reason. Whatnot is just covering their butts so they can keep on making a ton of money. The second reason is more subtle, and that's probably why I haven't heard many people discuss this in the hobby. When you do what Whatnot's done here, which is make it easier for people to scam on your platform and make it easier to hide bad behavior, your biggest fear as a company, if you're Whatnot, is government intervention and government regulation and investigation, right? Those are your fears. And I feel like in the past 6 months to a year in the hobby, there's been more talk about regulation for sports cards, for cards in general, for the entire industry. And I feel like 6 months, 12 months ago, that made sense. But if we take a step back and consider the environment that we're operating in now, in this day, I don't think that discussion makes sense anymore because we are operating in a very different environment. And that is under the Trump administration, where they clearly are focusing on deregulation. That is undeniable. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but those are the facts. He has been elected, and one of his core directives is to deregulate. And I don't know that anybody can argue that fact. You might not like it, but it's going to happen. And this is the White House website here, and like he's clearly very focused on this, the administration and him as well. Here's another article from Brookings where they have specific trackers to track how many deregulatory actions will be taking place. Like that's just the fact. And so if you're a whatnot and you're looking around and you see Trump get elected, and then you see all this blowback from backyard breaks, you're thinking, well, no government regulation is coming. So let's just hide everything in our archives, unless it's someone from our break, so that nobody in the public can see it, and everything is opaque and not transparent at all. And then we have nothing to fear because the government's not going to step in. And so we're totally comfortable because the downside and the fear of government investigations and regulation is actually not there because it's not what this administration is going to do. And so that is the second reason why Whatnot feels comfortable doing this, because there's no fear of the government doing anything about it. And so that is the second reason that I don't think I've heard anybody really talk about. Again, I'm not trying to get political here. These are just the facts. This is what the American public have voted for. Deregulation as a whole, smaller government, all that stuff. And this is one of the downstream impacts. So that's it. That's the video. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching. I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.